Welcome to another email case study. This is the third post in a series. We're following the actual email sequence of a sleep information product website that I found. This is sleepwarrior.com, and the reason I'm showing this to you is not because I bought the product or am endorsing the product or recommending the product in any way, but just because there are so many good lessons to learn from the email funnel itself. I think they did a really nice job with it. And I'll also point out some things that I think could be better. You can see some of those comments already on the right of the screen. But before we jump into this one, the last post was about email number 1. This is email number 2 in the series. So in that post, the email got into the first article, which was about the benefits of better sleep. So that's going to be important in this particular email because this is going to build on that. So we'll see how we are being nudged towards eventually buying the product, whatever the product is that's going to be offered about how to sleep better. Okay, so as we get into this, these are just the first minor comments. And the first comment is that this Series 2, the way it says Series 2 is confusing. I mentioned this in the first email, so I'm not going to harp on it much here. But what he means, the gentleman behind this, is his name is Jeff. What Jeff means is that this is email number 2, not like a second series, so that's a little bit confusing. And then also the Optimal Sleep series, which is his brand for this free course of emails that we're getting. That's not title case, meaning the O and the S here are not capitalized, and I see that as a missed branding / authority opportunity because that's some value that he's creating, and it makes sense to capitalize that. Okay, so that's minor. What we really want to talk about in this video is the article that's included in here. That's the juicy stuff. That's the content, and the title of it is Sleep Myths Banished. I like how he's got a title for every article. It's a good point to remember in creating your own education-based email sequence. So what he's doing is he's going to blow out some of the belief systems, the limiting beliefs we have about sleep, or just the wrong beliefs we have about sleep. The persuasion psychology that's going on here is that after, in the first email, he talked about benefits of better sleep. Talking about benefits brings up people's belief systems of all sorts. So now is a really good time, which is very early in the sales funnel, to start knocking out any kind of false beliefs we have, so that later on those beliefs don't become all sorts of crazy objections that causes him to lose the sale. So he has a very simple format for this. It's really just myth and truth, and he just has a very simple intro as well. Just like any health topic, sleep has some major misconceptions. Here's the truth about some common sleep myths, and he goes right into it. No need for a long teaser there. Myth and the truth. So this one is about caffeine. Caffeine has no effect. This is a myth. Caffeine has no effect on sleep if taken 8 hours before bedtime. Truth, caffeine has what's called a half-life, and so every 5 hours the amount that you had gets cut in half in your bloodstream. The concentration does. So there's no cutoff, etc. This is really interesting information, very valuable. And this is also very good because he says here towards the bottom, where you're going to remember it, I'm a caffeine drinker. Perhaps someday I'll quit, but for now I follow 2 simple rules. Number 1, the earlier the better, and number 2, not too much. It works for me. So he's showing us that he's a regular person. He's not perfect. He does drink caffeine in the form of coffee, tea, etc. But here's a simple formula that works for him. So he's showing that, again, he's an expert of sorts because he found something that works. He's showing he's not the perfect human being who has no caffeine, nothing like that. So he has perfect sleep. He has some issues, but he's working around them, and he's going to help us do the same thing. So because we can relate to him, we're going to be more likely to buy what he's selling when it comes to that. Okay, so then the next myth, and I just labeled these as the number because he didn't do that here where it doesn't say myth number 1, myth number 2. So I wanted to count how many myths that he's actually dispelling. So that's myth 2, about 8 hours of sleep a night. Number 3 is napping is a sign of laziness. He talks about Einstein, Thomas Edison, Leonardo da Vinci, Winston Churchill. I mean, pretty easy to blow out that myth when you mention those names. Myth number 4, waking up in the middle of the night is a sign of a sleep disorder. Not true. This one's interesting because he talks about not just sleep apnea, but he also talks about historically before the invention of the light bulb, humans, he said humans, could have said people, he said humans woke up in the middle of the night for a couple of hours, then they slept again. So we had a different pattern before the light bulb. I didn't know that. That was interesting to learn. Myth number 5, insomnia is caused by stress. Number 6, sleep is for resting the body. He talks about how it's actually more for the brain, which is also something I hadn't really thought about as much before he mentioned it. So really building his authority here by dispelling these myths. Myth number 7, healthy sleepers can't do much to improve their already healthy sleep. And of course he wouldn't have a business if they couldn't. So that's a myth. Myth number 8, people are either larks or owls, meaning either morning people or night people, and he says that we can actually adjust our pattern. We don't have to be caught up in the belief that we're either a morning person or a nighttime person. And I was just asking someone if they're a morning person or a nighttime person yesterday, so even though I don't want to, I still have that, I think, that belief structure in my mind. Myth number 9, we cannot catch up on sleep on weekends. Truth, yes you can, it sort of is true, but then he talks about why sleep experts say it really isn't true. So he picks through that for us, again building his value in our eyes, that he knows what he's talking about. Myth number 10, so you see he's got at least 10 myths. If you're going to do an email like this, I suggest that you also have 10 myths, which may take you a while to write out, but really builds value, really shows that you've researched your topic. You don't have to have more than that. In this case, we'll see that he does. Myth number 10, sleeping less makes you fat. That's an important one. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that. Myth number 11, long sleep is always a sign of laziness. He talks about napping before being a sign of laziness and how that's a myth. Now this is about long sleep being a sign of laziness and how just the reason why that's not true. Myth number 12, a nap during the day makes it harder to sleep at night. So it's another one about naps. Myth number 13, warm milk is good for sleep. I think many of us have heard that from our parents when we were little. Myth number 14, our brain only needs REM sleep. Myth number 15, we sleep in 90-minute cycles. He says biology just isn't that precise. Myth number 16, waking up in the morning requires self-discipline. Okay, so he's got 16 myths that he states and debunks in very simple fashion. Myth, truth, myth, truth. Very, very simple, and he's got it all segmented off, all this valuable content with these cool separators. I think that's a good idea. I got a lot from that. I don't know about you, but whether you're interested in sleep or not, I suggest that you have this kind of thing somewhere in your email series towards the beginning. It doesn't have to be in the same format of myth and truth, but make it fairly obvious that you're knocking out things and you're helping people that way. Okay, so at the end here, he invites feedback. He wants to remind people that he's a real person. You can email him. He's committed to improving because he's asking for feedback, and all of that lets you knock out other doubts that you might have, because he may have not have addressed, even though he's got 16 different points here, myths that he's debunked. Maybe those raise other questions, or he just didn't answer your questions. So you can email him. Just hit the reply button. And he doesn't say that. I think that would be better if he said, instead of shoot me an email, maybe say reply, because not everyone not everyone knows that. It's not crystal clear, obvious. So I like that. Any kind of doubts, email me. Let's handle it early on. And also here, notice that he's not selling anything yet. He doesn't have a buying link to his product. He's not talking about his product. He's purely building relationship first by delivering value, and that's really key. So job well done with this. I think we can all do better with our emails by following this particular example. Of course, we don't want to plagiarize anything. We just want to draw inspiration and model success. So keep that in mind. Please respect Jeff's copyright. It's important. We would all want the same thing for our own emails. If you do want to check out these emails in more depth at your own leisure, I have the download links in the blog post below. So go ahead and download those and enjoy.